All right, welcome back, everyone, for episode 3 for this month's little book club for Sanctuary of the Shadow. This week we are gonna cover chapters 16 through 23, and boy, are there so many thoughts.
Yep.
But I will say, I'll start off with this. I think these set of chapters are better than last week's. Do you agree?
I think any set of chapters would have been better than last week.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed these set of chapters a lot more without kind of getting into it just yet. But I really like them.
Sure.
Alrighty. Do we go ahead and just get started with the summary then?
Yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and start off with the summary. So in chapter 16, it starts off with Ouro waking up from her delusion, and she starts to see Wraith for what he is, a Wraith. Ouro says that she's starting to grieve for Wraith because she had loved him and has now lost the man that she loved. And she essentially escapes and runs away like Daria had told her. Then the chapter switches over to Wraith's point of view. He's agonizing as he's going through all the memories and relives through all of them. But he did mention something, and I wanted to cover it. He had mentioned it in the chapter that he was enslaved, bound to another's will, and forced to commit unspeakable acts. He starts to recall the memory where he kills Ouro's entire clan, the entire clan of the Seers, but left Ouro alive. And rather than killing her, he decides to resist the orders and lets her live. And for the very first time, he makes his own free choice. After this, he breaks away from Daria's, I guess, illusion, if we can call it that.
Yeah.
And is back in the real world, and that's when Salazar comes in with backup to capture Wraith. And a fight breaks out, and boy, was this fight gruesome. Wraith starts to begins to have the need to kill Salazar, and they begin battling it out when finally Wraith grabs Salazar by the throat and starts to choke him. But afterwards, he decides to not kill Salazar because even though Salazar did capture Wraith, he was still, and this is where you can kind of see his change a little bit, but he sees that he was still a good person to Ouro and he cared for her. And that was essentially his job, to care for the elementals. So Wraith lets him live, but he leaves to deliver quote unquote vengeance for Ouro, which essentially he wants to go kill the queen who started this whole ordeal, which was Queen Fury.
Yep.
Now, chapter 17. This goes back to Mao. Oh, I've been missing her a little bit. So after being unsettled for these past few days because she hasn't been able to sneak away to tell Ouro about everything she has learned about Salazar and just everything overall, after a performance, she senses that something is different about that night. She goes over to Salazar's tent and notices that there's a secret meeting going on, but can't exactly hear what they're saying or anything. But she does see that in the night, they leave the circus, and so that does allow an opening for her to escape to go see Ouro and warn her or tell her what she's learned about Salazar. As Mal tries to leave the caravan, the snake from the Ouroboros gang appears and tells her that he needs to see the seer, or Ouro, because she needs to go speak with the oracle. And as Ouro is approaching the caravan, Ouro, which is the snake, tells Mal that she needs to open the door, greet Ouro, and let her in. Mal tells him that essentially that's not going to happen. And so a little fight breaks out between them. This is fight number 2. And as he was about to sink his fangs into her neck, Ouro knocks on the door, and Ouro tells her to let her in, not make a fuss, and just let it happen. After going back and forth for a little bit, Mal decides to give in and tells him she'll let her in, but to not hurt her. And he says that he has no intentions of doing so. So Mal goes ahead, opens the door, greets Haro, and as they're having their little, like, hey, how you doing, whatnot, Ouro comes from behind and tells Haro that they need to get going. That she needs to see an oracle and that he's simply just a messenger for all of this. And Haro begins to struggle internally to decide what she wants to do, where she wants to go. She's trying to seek help from the water, but isn't really sure if she can trust it. So, she decides, you know what? We're going to go ahead and go for it. Because even though Queen Daria told her that she should just go back to the fairgrounds to stay there, that there are people hunting her, which she never really says who's hunting her or anything. She decides to just go ahead and go with Ouro. Something in her just tells her to just go with Ouro's. Now, chapter 18. Ouro brings them to the oracle, who we now find out is Queen Nashira from the Ether realm, or the Ether territory. And she is very cryptic in the way that she speaks. And I did have a page in here, but we'll go in that until later. How she speaks is just very cryptic. Let's just leave it at that. She keeps asking Haro where her other half is, and she's referring to Wraith. And she keeps saying that Haro is the light and he is the dark, but they bring balance to each other. Haro tells Ouro that Wraith is at the tavern, and essentially she starts to have a conversation with Nashira. She tells her how can she even love him or be with him when Wraith is the one responsible for killing her mother and her entire clan. The queen responds with something along the lines of, but he didn't really kill you though, and that he's already paid for what he has done 1,000 times. And Nashira begins to explain to Haro that Wraiths are just creatures of the dark and they are enslaved to Queen Fury, bound to her by her words. They are no darker than Haro is. They are just trying to survive. Essentially, Queen Daria has tortured him by putting his fire essence under fire. Essentially, and I'm just going to read this little quote from the book, but she extinguished his inner flame over and over again. Daria merged both fire and water to create a corporeal form for him. When he was reborn in his new body, he was born with a powerful tie to not only the water. Let me rephrase that. Queen Nashira begins to explain to Haro that Daria merged both fire and water to create a corporeal form for him. When he was reborn into his new body, he was born with a powerful tie to the only other water element in this world, which was Haro, which is why her powers respond to him whenever he is near. Her water was just trying to reach out to the water within Wraith himself. And Nashira believes that their unconditional love can heal the rift between just the whole world overall, or I guess their war. And so after this, Haro kind of realizes what she has done and feels essentially bad for leaving Wraith just alone and abandoning him, and she wants to go find Wraith again. But Nashira tells Haro that she has much to amend and that she has destroyed the greatest gift given to her. After this, they leave to go find Wraith again, and they go back to the tavern, but there's no Wraith, just Salazar and the Ouroboros gang. Eventually, they come to the conclusion that Wraith has gone to see Queen Fury. Or, well, Mal has decided. Or she has concluded. There we go. Mal has concluded, came to the conclusion that Wraith has gone after Queen Fury. And they're pretty much left at, like, what are their next steps? Now, chapter 19. Wraith goes back to Fury's castle and goes to where he was imprisoned and goes through a little checklist, which as of right now, his checklist is checking the dungeons and releasing the Wraith. but don't really know what 3 or 4 are. Wraith is now in a room where there are jars of darkness, and one jar is empty, which is his. And after that, he realizes that the rest of the the rest of the jars, those are where all the wraiths are. And he makes the decision to make all the jars fall to the ground and let all of the wraiths escape. And they leave. And essentially that's just all like chapter 19 is. He just goes back to the castle that he essentially was born in, or like Fury is at. And then afterwards it just switches back over to Haru's point of view, where she's begging Ashira to help her, but she's not budging and just tells her to leave. And so they're just thinking, I was like, okay, what are the next steps? And that's where we get into chapter 20. Haru begins to scry, which essentially it seems like it's just a way for her to look into the future with the helpful connection of the water. And she's trying to see how she can help Wraith by knowing what's going to happen in the future. But instead, she ends up in Daria's library where she tried to connect with Haru. Daria apologizes to Haru and explains that she should have been there to help her from the very beginning rather than being absent. She just felt that she would have been better off rather than being in Haru's life. Haru is still skeptical about Daria and pretty much told her, like, all of this is still your fault. You are still the cause of my whole clan being like dead. You should have been there, but you weren't, and now all of this is all thanks to you. Not only did you attempt to manipulate me, you actually did manipulate me. And even though she's skeptical of Daria, she needs her help, and so she asked for Daria to help her. That way they can reach Wraith, or at least find how they can help him out. And eventually this goes back to Wraith's point of view, where he reaches Fury's room and she sees that she's talking to herself about her lover. She's essentially casting an image of her lover, Pharaon, in the flames. And to how Wraith says it, she looks pathetic, just looking like she's essentially just murmuring to herself things about how much he looks so beautiful, how much she loves him, to an image in a flame of her past lover. Wraith attempts to kill her, but the sword melts away. Fury gets up and tells Wraith that he's beautiful and that his form is nice, but it's all too bad because she's gonna have to destroy him. And that's where it takes us, the chapter 21, where Fury begins to burn him alive. And this is where we find out that Wraith's actual name is 13, just the number 13. And as he's being burned alive, Wraith just wants Fury to end his life. And Fury essentially begins to go through all the possibilities of why he ended up here. She's like, oh, you ended up here to... Sorry. Fury goes through all the possibilities as to why Wraith is here. And she's like, oh, you're here just to bring revenge to Haru. Or maybe you're here because you want me to kill you. And she's like, well, why would I want to give you the satisfaction of just being dead? And so she decides, she's like, you know what? We're going to put an end to this. She's like, I'm going to decide to not kill you. I have other plans in store for you. And so what Fury does is she turns him back to his incorporeal form. And while he's unconscious, he sees Haru in the water trying to grab him and bring him closer to her. But this is exactly when he's brought back into the real world and he is back in his native incorporeal form. And Fury makes him vow to, quote unquote, how it's said in this book, to remind everyone what it means to challenge her. And in this moment, it seems like Wraith has forgotten Haru because he doesn't refer to Haru as Haru. He refers to her as the seer because that's how Fury mentions her. And it almost seems like all of the emotions in him have just gone flat. And this is also where Fury makes him vow to kill the seer. And that brings us into chapter 22. Ouro travels to the south where the water tells her to. As she's settling in for the night, Wraith appears in the dark but stays at a distance from Ouro. Ouro begins to tell Wraith how much she loves him and that she's so sorry for leaving him. She tries to get closer, but Wraith tells her to stay away. And then tells Ouro that Fury has changed him. And that's eventually wherein Ouro notices that he's back in his Wraith form. And she had also mentioned in the book that he looks so beautiful, like even more beautiful, even though he looks dangerous, and she sees him in the shadows, but doesn't see him the same as before. So I think she noticed that a little bit before he even told her. Then afterwards, this is when Wraith tells her that Fury made him vow that he will never break another vow, and that he needs to kill Ouro. And then it jumps back to Wraith's point of view, where you can see that he starts to call her the seer and doesn't understand why Ouro is looking at him with tears, or why she's even accepted the fate of, being killed. And so that's when Wraith begins to attack Ouro. He starts to burn her, and Ouro is not fighting back at all. And she keeps telling him, I love you, please don't, you can stop this. And you can kind of see him, or it's shown in the book that he is hesitating a lot, but he still continues to essentially attack her. But then there's a moment where it all stops, and a powerful magic engulfs him and swallows him away. Mal and Daria appear to save her, but before Ouro goes unconscious, she thinks to herself that Daria had betrayed her again. Chapter 23. Ouro wants to go back to Wraith. She wakes up and begins to tell Mal that she needs to go back to Wraith. But Mal begins to explain to her that, no, you're not going to go back to Wraith. You're not even healed yet. And you have 2 holes in your shoulder and your neck is just the color of purple. Why? Mal begins to explain that after Ouro had ran away to the south, she ran over to Nishira to tell her that after Ouro did scrying, she fled to the south. Nishira got very excited over this and took took Mal and herself over to Daria's castle through a portal to tell Daria what Ouro's plan is, and to also tell Daria that Nishira, she essentially had a vision that Wraith was going to kill Ouro. Daria and Mal devise a plan to rescue Ouro, but also get Wraith and keep him safe, but also away from Ouro in that moment. Again, he attacked her. Why do you want to keep them close? Mal explains that Daria will create a new body for Wraith and send him back to, essentially he's going to start all over again. And that if she has any doubts, that Ouro should turn to the water for guidance. But Ouro really doesn't take that as a response. She's like, no, I need to speak with Daria. And so she scries again. While she scries, she goes and speaks with Daria, and she wants to know why she can't see Wraith. Daria explains that she had given Wraith her vow that she would not allow Ouro to see him just yet. Right now, Wraith feels regret and shame for what he has done. Daria also explains to Ouro that once he is given his new body, he will be reset. It'll be the same as he started from the beginning of the book. He'll have no memories, but she will give him back his past memories, because even though they brought a lot of torture to him, he has to remember them in order to heal. Ouro begins to ask her to just give her a week or give her a month. And finally she's like, just give me 1 week. 1 week to show him that he can be loved. And then after that, you can go ahead and give his memories back. Daria reluctantly agrees and decides to go out that way. Then afterwards, Daria pushes Haru out of the vision, and still not satisfied that she can't really do anything, Haru decides to scry to Nashira, who only gives her odd responses and tells her that she will not help her today, tomorrow, or yesterday, and that she'll find out everything all within time. And that's essentially how these chapters end this week. What are your thoughts?
I hate this book.
Oh my God. Okay. I will say I really enjoyed the set of chapters compared to the last one, but I still have a lot of thoughts of everything. Let me just start off from the very beginning. Okay. Let me start off with chapter 16, because as she's leaving Wraith in the room, she feels a slight pain. Like she feels slight pain for him when she hears him moan in his sleep. And it's like, I get the feeling of, you know, being in pain for him, because in this body, he's reborn again. He's like a clean slate. My question is, did he ever think for himself before being placed in that body, or was he always just following Queen Fury's command like mindlessly? And it seems to be that he just always followed her commands mindlessly, because we then learn later on, let me see if I can find the information on here. On page 26, Wraith describes, or he says, every Wraith hated Fury as much as they hated their cursed existence, but it was a futile motion. He's like, why waste energy on the absolute? They were powerless against her. They essentially just, they follow what she says because they have to vow to do it. Otherwise, you know, they're just dead.
In that sense, I think that's what I still don't get, because even from the beginning, like, I don't think they've explained that super clear yet, where he let Harrow go. He killed the rest of the family. Like, yeah, they said, oh, now they're attracted to each other because of that water magic and her being the only water element. So, like, they haven't really explained, because back then he didn't have the water magic in him yet when he went to go kill the whole clan of Seers. Right. So why did he end up leaving Harrow there? Right. You know, so that's where I'm thinking maybe he could think for himself. But that still doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, there's something about that still just doesn't make any sense. Like, why in that moment did he decide to leave her? Let her live, essentially. Like, I get it. That's the first time that he's having his own free choice. But it just... But why? Yeah, but why?
Like it can't be because she was a kid. Because I'm pretty sure there was other kids in the clan at that time.
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure he killed a bunch of kids before. But so it's like why her?
He didn't have the water. Because at that moment, it was like when they were just created, right? Fury created them and sent them out to kill the Seers. And that's what they did. And then comes across Harrow after killing the rest of her family in front of her. I just don't... Like, if it's going to end up being something of... Oh, it's because she didn't run. She didn't show any fear, so I'm going to let her there. That to me isn't clear enough.
No. I completely agree. Like, that moment still doesn't make any sense. Because I don't know. I guess this is the part where the writing, I feel like, could have been a little bit more detailed or brought a little bit more. But I just don't understand why her, of all people... You just let her live, because like you said, in that moment he didn't have any sort of water connection yet. Like, I get the connection afterwards, but before, what is the reason? Like, you probably could have done this for another kid too, right? Or another set of, like, I'm pretty sure she's probably not the only one who just stood up like without any fear.
And if it's because of love, then that's some weird stuff, because she was a kid at that time. So you can't be using that excuse.
Yeah, I don't even think it's because of that either.
Yeah. So I'm still not sure about that. But then, going back to what you were saying there, I think he, like, not just him, other wraiths could have thought for themselves, but they were bind to the vows. No, they were by the vows. So even if they wanted to, like you said, they didn't see the point.
And that's what I wanted to bring up because that moment where he frees all the wraiths.
Yeah.
I literally put in my notes, what the fuck is he on about? I get letting them live, like letting them free, but is this really smart? My dude. And like he even says, and I put it in quotes too. He even said, was it smart to release the deadliest creature in creation? Probably not. Like,
but then you also have to think those are his people.
Yeah.
You have to think like, yeah, they're deadly, whatever, and he knows that now. But just like how, I guess maybe he saw how much Harrow cared for her clan, how much other people care for their people, he started seeing, these are my people.
Yeah, no, I see that too.
Would want to free them, but then obviously doesn't have the thought process of, I just let the most deadliest group of killers I could have done. But again, I think how the book is going, I don't think that's ever going to be brought up again.
Yeah, I don't think it will.
Them being let out, that like they're just out in the world now, and that's
although Queen Fury did say, she's like, oh, you let them out? She's like, no worries. She's like, with one of my calls, they'll come flying back. Which
unless
brings
like
me
a
to
fight
like, will that ever happen? Yeah, I'm like, unless a fight happens like at the very end, maybe, but who really knows? And not even this, like going back to what you said, I also put like in parentheses afterwards, I'm like, but Wraith was once one of those creatures, so he must understand their nature. And apparently he had also mentioned that Wraiths just want to disappear. Like when they're not being told to do something, they just want to disappear and have little to no interest in the world. Yeah. So
literally remain a shadow.
Yeah, no, they essentially just want to go into the void and just disappear. Yeah. And so I get that, but they're also like very dangerous. But maybe they're only dangerous if Queen Fury is making them do something. That's also the thing. Maybe they're only dangerous when they're being told to do something or being vowed, or when they have to vow to do something dangerous.
Yeah. And maybe he knows that. That's why he let him out. He's
true.
Like, my plan is to kill Queen Fury. She's not going to be here anymore, so I don't have to worry about these guys. These guys can go. So
right. I wanted to ask you this. Yeah. What do you think a Wraith looks like? Because to me, they look like the Soul Eaters. Soul Eaters, right? Los Dementores?
Dementors?
Yeah, Dementors. Sorry, not Soul Eaters. I even put my thing.
Well, technically, that's what they do.
Yeah, they remind me of the Dementors from Harry Potter, but darker. Rather than like a very translucent. They're kind of translucent, but very dark and mysterious.
I don't have a... I know of, like, I have something in my head. I just don't know where it's from. But it's a cartoon. They're cartoon, like, shadows with red eyes. I know in the book it's black eyes. But
I also see them as, like, having some sort of glowing eyes as well. Even though the book says it as, like, black and, like, dark. To me, like, otherwise it'd just be, like, a very dark shadow.
I just can't remember where it's from. I don't know. I have that picture in my head, but I can't remember what cartoon that is or anything.
Darn, okay.
I think essentially what I imagine is... No, I can't even describe it. I don't know. But it's... I know it's a whole shadow form, so I see why you think Dementor, but I think Dementor is still kind of like...
Pushing it?
I think so, because Dementors are meant to look... like, no, well, they describe wraiths as like death. Yeah. Death staring at you, a shadow, a whole entire shadow figure. So I guess so. I guess
granted, a Dementor has like almost like a head like and the arms. I only see it as the drapiness of a Dementor. Okay. You know how they are? Yeah. That's how I see them as, just very dark. But rather than having like a physical form, they're essentially just all a little blob.
Yeah.
That moves with a lot of darkness within. That's how I imagine it. But how a Dementor looks, like the way they're almost kind of like dressed or their body is, that's kind of how I see a
like
wraith.
With a cloak and stuff like that.
Yeah, the cloak and all. But I feel like that cloak is just more of a blob for a wraith.
Yeah. So you don't see them having an actual like figure?
No, I don't think they have a figure.
Corporeal.
Because I feel like when he appeared in front of Ouro, he was essentially just almost like a pillar of just darkness with like the shadows moving alongside underneath too. That's kind of how I see him per se.
Yeah. Like I think if I were to sit down and just draw it out, I think I could jot down like what I think it looks like. Mm-hmm. But I don't like to describe it. It's kind of...
That's your homework for next week. You're gonna draw it and then we're gonna try to describe it. I did kind of want to switch gears just a little bit. I want to know what your take is on the fight between Wraith and Salazar. What do you think? Because I mean, I thought that would be a moment that you would enjoy. No?
Yeah, but at the same time, it was like a 5-second thing. Like, it was cool, and it was cool to see that he saw the human in Salazar, like the caring, and he let him live. I just think it flew by
too quick.
I think that should have been like an epic fight. Like if it was a game, it'd be a boss fight almost. Like it's true. Like, like which one would be the boss? I don't know, but it's like
they're each other bosses.
Yeah. Because like I've read, like, not to compare it to any other book, but I've read other stuff where a fight is 2 chapters, or a chapter or whatever. It just feels longer. It takes the build up. And I understand for this book, it's not really like that, but it was just that whole build up, it's like.
We were expecting this to happen at some point or another, whether that be Ouro and Wraith against Salazar, but we were expecting the fight for a while. Yeah.
And I mean, from the beginning, the dude was out for Salazar. As soon as he left the cage, he was out for him. He wanted to go straight to killing him. And out of nowhere, we'd have a little 2-minute fight. And it's like, you know what? I'm gonna let you live. Like, even that decision seemed a little rushed to me. Like, I'm glad he saw the human in him, and I'm glad he left him alive. But I don't think that should have been that quick. Like, it should have been a fight. And I think Salazar should have said something that led him to believe that he was had that human part of him. Like, I just think it should have been built up better because of the whole Ouro leaving, basically leaving him there as a trap. Like, that should have been. I don't know. It should have been more. It should have been more because me, the stuff I that's what you think I would have liked it, right? Because it was a whole like fight scene, a fantasy fight scene. It just didn't do much for me.
No, I agree. I feel like the fight could have been a little bit longer. Hell, I know this fight scene could not have been more than like 3 or 4 pages, I think, at most. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it could have been a chapter or at least a chapter and a half.
Yeah.
And left it the other half as him deciding or coming to the conclusion that, there is more to Salazar than just a person who trapped you, but he's a whole human or how that human thought that he should be able to live.
Yeah.
Because he, like, really his job was only to protect the elementals. And he is literally the most dangerous person. And that's why he had to capture her for the greater good, or capture him for the greater good. But, I just.
Bro is goated for that last jab, though. Like when Wraith was jumping out the window. Mm-hmm. Or was it a window he jumped out of? I think so. He was jumping out to go to the castle and just let him live. Salazar was like, nah. And he just threw that final magic blow. And he got him. And he's like, yeah. He escaped, but he's bleeding out, so we're good.
Yeah, no, Salazar's literally good.
Like, bro almost died. He let him live, and you're like, nah.
Yeah, nah. You may have let me live, but too bad.
He's like, I still have a mission. Like I said last episode, he's not gonna like he's on a mission to protect his people. That thing is leaving. Like,
I think it's not gonna protect your people.
Yeah, him being out there is still a danger to that. So he's like, you let me live. That's your mistake. Bang, you know. And yeah, I was like, good. He did damage. Salazar was too powerful not to have done something.
No, I agree. And I want to ask you this now. Now that I know that you wanted more from the fight.
Yep.
Tell me, did you not want to know more about the Ouroboros gang?
I think if Sanctuary of the Shadow was a show, I would want an Ouroboros spinoff.
Literally, they seem so interesting.
And you know, I actually have that up here. I was doing that while you were reading the summary of what I think Ouroboros or Ouro looks like to me. Yeah. And I pulled it up because I know you don't know what I'm going to talk about.
Okay. Have
you seen the movie Rango?
Yes.
You've seen it?
Yes, I have.
You remember Jake the rattlesnake?
I don't know their names. I know that I saw it. I just don't remember anything about it.
I'm showing her a picture right now. If you've watched the movie Rango, which is an animal movie, I think it was DreamWorks. I don't know.
That's how you view him.
Obviously smaller. The snake here
but that's the face that you imagine him.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that.
This right here. Like that is him looking like arguing with Mal.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, I agree.
So if for those of you that want to know what that is, look up Jake the Rattlesnake from Rango. If you haven't seen the movie, go watch it. Banger of a movie. Johnny Depp did his thing as a chameleon. But that's how I view Ouro, and that just made me even more interested in that.
I wish we got more from the Ouroboros gang. Like, we know that they're not friends with Salazar, but it's like, okay, tell me more why.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much potential to it. Like, honestly, it almost seems like this Ouroboros gang could just not even exist. Like, you can take them out of the book and it would not impact this book at all. Like, you can easily replace Ouro with someone like maybe from the circus who also has ties to the Ether like queen or whatever. Like, that's how almost insignificant this Ouroboros gang seems like in the book.
Yeah.
Because there's just not a lot of detail given about them, but they're just so
like from the stuff that was described in it makes you think they're actually like on some shit. Like,
yeah, no, seriously.
They have they run those grounds. First of all, they have their own tavern, and it's like you imagine, I don't know, I imagine them as like kind of like a biker gang. They've got like the leather vests on.
Yeah, no, I see that too.
They all look dope. Like, I don't know. I was very interested in that particular chapter, and like Mal literally wanted to kill them all, and they were like, "Look, we could end you in an instant, but we choose not to."
Yeah,
like, hell, it's like, yeah, dude.
Yeah, no, literally, it's like we could, but we're not going to because we have just better things to do. Okay, literally. He's just making it seem like we have other things to do. We are literally just a messenger at this point, and we just want to get the job done. We have other things we got to go to. Okay, so let's cut the chit chat. I need to get to my next step. Okay.
And then literally on like when he goes and looks for Mal at the caravan, he's literally just like, "Look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way." And she's like, "All right, so do it the hard way." He's like, I don't need to. Yeah, I'm gonna just chill here. You got whiskey? Yeah. He like, takes out the whiskey. They drink it. He's sitting and he's like, "Look, I know something you don't." I'm just like, I just imagine him like as just a snake with that cactus whiskey on the side, and he's like, "Yeah, we're just gonna chill here until the things I want to happen are gonna happen." You know, it's like but at the same time, he doesn't seem like a villain.
Yeah,
like he's like, he could end your shit as a villain, but he chooses to do not even good. He's just like he said, he's the messenger in all this.
Exactly.
And because the queens know that he's gonna get that message across. Why? Because he's a badass.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't do good, he doesn't do bad. He will do whichever one he needs to do. You know, it's like he can flip the switch. Whichever one is more convenient to him.
Yeah, and you know what I didn't appreciate though about like the little interaction with Ouro and Mal is that I almost felt like they were trying to give a little bit of romance, of like chemistry, of between Mal and Ouro. So I'm like, that's not needed. I'm sorry, that's just not needed. Just keep them as enemies. We don't need a little relationship if we're not really gonna go deep into what the Ouroboros gang is. Okay, just leave it as him just trying to get to Haro, and that's it. Like I don't need any little hints, because no thank you. No thank you. But I did want to ask you, because I had asked you a little bit earlier. Let's go to Nashira, because I have so many thoughts on Nashira. There's something.
What does she think she's Mad Hatter, bro? Like, why is she trying to like rhyme, like bust a rhyme or something? Like,
did you like how I said, like, but did he kill you though?
Oh yeah, she was. Yeah, she was.
That made me laugh.
Harrow that brought up like, oh, he killed my entire clan though. Like I'm gonna hate him. And then that's when she was like, wait, but hold on, hear me out. What about you though? Like where are you at? And she expected to be like, oh yeah, I'm alive. You're right. Like no, dude. Like
there's something about Nashira. She's like, but he's your other half. He is the darkness.
He's
you
the
are
dark
light.
half, is what they call it.
Yeah,
right?
the dark
half.
Yeah, he's the dark half, and it's like, dude, he killed her entire family. Like I get it, and I really do understand the part that he is now in a whole new body and essentially is reborn, per se. It's like, how do you expect me to just, in the flip of a switch, just be like, oh yeah, I'm good?
Not even in the flip of a switch. I don't think, like, this is what I don't agree with. And I've expressed that over the last 2 episodes too. The fact that they're going to end up together still. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
But why? Like, I don't care if he had a clean slate. If I was seeing someone and I find out they killed my entire family plus the rest of my clan, I don't care if that was you in the moment or not. Like, it was still you. Like, the thing that did it is still inside of you. Like, now he has a body, sure, and that wasn't the body that did it, but you have the memories because it was you, you know? And I don't care if it was like, oh yeah, but that was like knew him, knew me.
No, but remember this. He was essentially like given orders of, he had a vow to go kill.
And that's fine, but he did it.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. Here's the thing. And we'll get back to Nashira, because I do have a couple other things I do want to mention. But with did I really just lose my train of thought? No. Okay, bringing it back. Here's the thing with Wraith and Haro. Those 3 chapters where there was just smut in, you could have put maybe one little bit of smut, and then the rest of it could have actually have been relationship building. Yeah. Like, you could have built so much more on the relationship, like have them go through little moments, because I really don't think they know anything about each other. And that's what like pisses me off. It's like, how can you love this person when you really don't know who he is? Yeah. You just have a connection, but it's like, outside of that connection, what else do you have?
That connection shit, I don't like. That whole, oh, you were bound to be together, that kind of stuff. No. And then at the end, and at the end where, like Harrow and Wraith are seeing each other again, and she's about to die, whatever. And
I have so many thoughts about that.
She literally tells him, I feel like I've loved you since the very first time we saw each other. Like, I saw you. And I was like, all right. Why? Please explain why.
I know. Oh my gosh. I'm just like, first, again, if this relationship had just more details, like more, show me how they're falling in love, not just because they have a quick connection, which, yes, I do like the connection point of it, but when there's good relationship building, that thing just slaps so much in the book. But when it's just a connection and no relationship building, it's just like, okay, you're just relying on this connection to get you through the whole story. No. Like, I like a connection, like soulmates and fated. I really enjoy those types of relationships, but they need to have more to the relationship to add to actually make it full. Right now it just feels like there are pieces trying to make this whole, but it's just not working and it's falling apart for me. For me, I know you don't like the whole connection thing, and I get it, because in this book it's just not done properly. And then with the whole he killing her whole clan, man,
like at some point, like it also feels like that's part of the connection. He was the one responsible for killing her clan,
right?
And that led him back to her. Like that kind of stuff was like, why is that the connection we're going with here? Like him killing his family is now love. Like obviously that's not what it is, right? But it's what it feels like to me. It's like that whole connection shit. But I understand, like that's like if I were to compare this to like comics or whatever, right? It's like at the end, Iron Man was the one to defeat Thanos, right? Because Iron Man was the one to basically make all of this shit, right? That's that connection. But we needed that the whole, like all three phases to build up to that fight. That's kind of what it seems like to me. Like if you have the connection, like you said, you need to build up the relationship for them to feel okay. Because if you just want to go off of that connection, that's not going to make sense. Like if you have Iron Man killing Thanos, or the other way around, if you had Thanos kill Iron Man, whatever, without any of like that whole buildup, it was going to be like, all right, well, why? And it's the same thing for me. Like I compare it in that way, because like I know I said I don't like the whole connection thing, and it's true when it's just going off of that, I guess, because this is the first book that I have to deal with something like that. And like you said, it doesn't look like it's being written correctly. And so I understand that now. Like it's actually not just me not liking it. It's just, it's not being done.
It's not presented
correctly
to you in the right way.
Right.
Because I feel like there are books that that just tie it in so well. Yeah. And they build it up in the right way. In this book, unfortunately, I'm just not seeing that. And you know what? I know I said we're going to talk about Nishiro, but we'll come back to her, because I did know that. Let's talk about that fight. Let's talk about the fight or when Wraith attacks Haro, because let me just say, I was so livid that she just lets him attack her.
Yeah.
I'm like, girl. I'm like, why? And literally, I wrote this up. I'm like, why is this bitch not fighting back with her water powers?
Literally, like you could have had
show how.
Oh my gosh!
Like you could have made this so epic.
Yeah. By
using your water power to help him, or to like, this could have been such an epic fight between two lovers, and no. Instead, what I got is some girl just in the ground, just letting this man beat her up. Like, yeah, like you could have, like that could have been a Poseidon versus Hades type of thing. Bruh. Like you had it right there where you messed up one fight. You messed up Salazar versus Wraith. At least make Wraith versus Haro. Like at that moment, Wraith, yeah, he was holding back, but his vow was still to kill her, right? So he was going to go at nothing to kill her. That's when she should have been like, I love you, but I'm not just going to let you kill me. And exactly try to convince him through the fight, not go to kill him, but to defend herself. And she's so weak. Yeah. I'm sorry, but she's so weak.
Yes. She's like, I love you, and if this is what you have to do, then go ahead, slay. Like, like no, we are not doing that.
I just, like you were away, and I was just sitting here reading, and I looked around because I was so mad, and I don't know if you could have heard me, but I was just typing. Like, granted, when I type on a computer, I love it. I want to hear it. Okay. And so I was typing so hard. Like, you can hear me. I just didn't understand why Haro just let him beat her up. Yeah. Like you have a power within you that can help you beat someone up. Literally. I think so. And it just didn't
And even if you didn't have a power that could help you
fight
end
back.
someone, just fight. Yeah, exactly. Fight.
Fight back. Like, you don't have to. I didn't like how they portrayed her in this part at all. And then afterwards, when she wakes up, she wants to go immediately back to Wraith. And Mal, she's like, girl, you have 2 holes on your shoulder and your neck is purple.
Yeah, it's
Why
like,
the
I know
fuck are you going to go back with him? No.
I know she's described as very stubborn, but this is like annoying stubborn.
Yeah, this
like,
is annoying stubborn.
It was
this
just
is
like, dude, shut up.
Yeah, no, she's like, but and Mal's like, am I done speaking? No. Then shut your ass up and let me finish talking.
Yeah. It's like, I guess, I don't know. It feels like, because he was like the first, I don't want to say he was the first guy she ever saw, like looked at.
No, because she's had relationships in the past.
And it's like, what about this is different just because the water is like trying to magnetize you to him? Like, no, that needs to be more. I don't know. It needs to be more. And
you know what? I read a book once where something was telling her, or I'm trying to see if I can remember this book, but I remember the book had painted the main character to be with someone that they're supposed to be like fated to. And she ended up with someone that she was not, like, the person she wasn't fated to. She ended up being with someone else.
Yeah.
And even though that
made more sense,
even though that pissed me off, it made more sense.
Yeah.
And they build up that relationship so well, and so you just accept it. This part, it's like, girl, you had sex with the man, and because his member is so apparently very good, like, you want to stay with him.
Which was also made entirely by Queen Daria. So if you want to fall in love with somebody, fall in love with Daria.
Yeah, because she created the perfect man.
She hooked you up, bro. Like,
it's been a while since I didn't like the main character in a story. And I just do not like Haro at all.
Yeah.
She seems like a mess. She seems annoying. She's annoyingly stubborn.
She seems like a kid.
Yeah.
Like a kid going through a high school relationship.
Yeah. And like at this point, I like Mal a little bit more. And here's where I think a lot of it comes into the writing. Personally, I feel like the writing between, like, the dialogue between Mal and Haro when they're going over it, I felt like she was holding my hand a little bit too much. It didn't feel natural, the dialogue between Haro and Mal, when Mal was trying to explain eventually the aftermath of what happened.
When she was getting interrupted and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Something about that dialogue just didn't sit very well with me. There's something about it I just didn't. I was like, I don't like it too much.
I think that comes from like a point of view of where you also like to write. Like, I think that is like a writer thing, because I don't.
You didn't notice a difference?
I didn't notice anything. I didn't, like, to me it was just annoying because of Haro's stubbornness.
Yeah.
And I just kind of wish Mal just kind of like smacked her across the face.
Yeah,
like,
I feel
shut
like
up. Like,
I felt like Haro definitely deserved to be put in her place. And I felt like I wished Mal could have been a little bit stronger here and just told her, like, get it together. Like, bitch, get it together.
Literally.
We need you to heal first. Then you can go boy crazy and go after him. But heal. You have 2 holes in your shoulder. Like, when I read that, I'm like, this girl really wants to go after him with 2 holes in her shoulder and her purple being neck.
Her purple being neck, yeah.
her purple being
her neck being purple. But yeah, no, like that. That's where I think it comes from the writer's perspective. Like, you also, wanting to write in your like specific way. It's like you didn't like how that was. I didn't
particularly like
I
the
myself
dialogue.
can't catch that, But
yeah, I got it. For me, the dialogue just didn't seem very natural at some points, especially like here. I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
I will say, though, to give Aurora Asher something good, because I don't mean to bash it. This book just isn't particularly my taste. It has some good moments, but it's just not my taste. I will say I really liked, there's something, even though I don't like third person, this is something that I see that Aurora Asher does very well when she's switching up the points of view.
That's
And
yeah.
she uses third person very well because, like I said, there was a moment when Wraith is put back into his incorporeal form. He essentially loses some of that emotional attachment to Harrow and some sort of memories to her, because rather than calling her Harrow, he starts to call her the Seer.
Yeah, like you can tell the switch happened.
Yeah, you can tell that the switch happens, and that's so cool.
Yeah.
Like in a writing perspective, that is done very well.
Yeah.
And I really like that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the relationship between Harrow and Wraith is just, I'm sorry, that pisses me off.
Yeah. And I think that's something very good to say coming from someone that doesn't like third person.
Yeah.
Like you've told me multiple times you don't really like third person.
Mm-hmm.
And for you to be liking this is saying a lot. So, and yeah, I do feel like we're bashing it a lot. Don't mean to bash it. It's just our thoughts. But then at the same time, we also have to remember this is a debut novel for her.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, all right, it's the first, you know, it's can be worked on.
I just wish her editor made her
more aware.
More aware of like certain things that she could have just
done differently.
Like she could have added more details to the relationship between Wraith and Harrow. She could have added more story to the Ouroboros gang. I feel like this could have been so much more because you have the pieces in this book to make it epic.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately right now it just seems to fall flat. Like the next set of chapters are chapters 24 through 26 and then like the epilogue. So I just don't know how this is all going to be wrapped up in these last few. I mean, obviously we're going to have the reunion between Harrow and Wraith, but I still feels like there's just some things that are missing. Like I really want to know a little bit more about Ouro. And like, let me just say this. There was a moment where Ouro's left to go back to the tavern, and Harrow had asked, I don't know if it was Harrow or Mal, one of them had asked Nashira, like, why are you guys working together? How does he know you? And she says very cryptically, she's like, oh, that's just not my story to tell. And she's like, well, actually, let me tell you. And she starts to tell them why Ouros is helping her. Like she begins a story. She's like, there once was a little boy, and then she stops and she's like, no, I decided I won't tell you. That was such a bruh moment for me. And like, let's talk a little bit about Nashira. Like I bookmarked a page here. Page 261. Let me just read this. Okay, yeah. Towards the very end, it says, "Good afternoon, Salazar," Nashira said. Through the sky in the window behind her was pitch black. "You're late, or you will be." "Late for what?" The other queen nodded contemplatively. "For you, yesterday was too early to understand. Today will work perfectly." She talks like that. There's something about the way how cryptic she talks that is just so confusing. I get it. And Ouro said, she's like, the way she talks is very weird. You just kind of have to get used to it.
Yeah.
But it almost makes no sense. I guess not even yes, it doesn't make any sense. However, it seems as if she's talking between the timelines of the past, the present, and the future all together as once. No?
Yeah. No, and I think that's exactly what it is. For me, it does make sense. It's just stupid.
Yeah.
Like, it makes perfect sense because of how she says it. She's like, yesterday it was too early to help you. Tomorrow is going to be too late. But today, it's like, I can help you today. But stuff like that, it's like, if you just follow it, it's like, yesterday was too late, tomorrow is too early. Like, stuff like that. It makes sense. It's just stupid for her to carry the whole conversation like that.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a character like that should have like moments where they say it, but then talk normally, you know, like explain their situation and then be like, you know, throw a little rhyme in there or you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. But even overall, she just still, like, again, the moment where she says, but he didn't kill you though. But she also tells Haro that she has so much to amend because she destroyed the greatest gift given to her. Like, a man is your gift?
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, she's kind of odd.
Like, I don't know what Nashira is smoking, but I just...
We don't want it.
Yeah, I don't want it. We don't want it. I just... There's so much blame placed here on Haro that I just don't really like. And Nashira seems like she could have been such a cool character, but the way she places so much blame on Haro and tells her that, you know, like, you have given away the greatest gift, and I'm disappointed. I'm just disappointed. I guess that's the best way I can describe it. I'm disappointed. I wish people weren't so harsh on Haro. Like, again, I don't like Haro that much. She's a very annoyingly stubborn character.
Yeah.
She doesn't have like a backbone sometimes.
Yeah.
Or her backbone is just put on backwards because, like, what the heck are you doing, dude? And then other people are just blaming her for this. Like, no.
Yeah.
It's not her fault. Like, she did the best thing she could do in that moment with the information she was presented. You just wanted her to stay with a killer when she wasn't presented all the facts per se. Like, no, she did the best thing she could have done was to escape him.
Right.
Granted, she may have been manipulated a little bit, but she did what was best for her.
Yeah.
You can't tell her that, you know, she messed up. She didn't. I think she did what was best for her. And I think Wraith could also agree that she did what was best for her.
Yeah. But she immediately was okay with what she was told. She's like, oh, I got to leave? Yeah, you're right. Which is also like, yeah, you did the right decision, but it didn't take much convincing.
Yeah, she just seems to go with what anyone tells her. Like, even when Ouro tells her, like, oh, follow me. We need to go to the Oracle. She's like, okay.
You're right.
Yeah, like, you're right. I don't know. Some things in this book just weren't explained.
I just think the best word to describe it all is rushed.
Yes.
It seems rushed.
A lot of this so far is just rushed. Like I said prior, like, this book is a regular book length.
Yeah.
But it could have been so much thicker because so much more could have happened in this story.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm wondering if maybe... I don't know. I don't think there's going to be a sequel to this. Or a part 2. I don't see how. I don't see what we're going to learn between chapters 24 to 26 to give us a second part. But if that's the case, I still don't agree with how rushed this feels.
Mm-hmm.
It just... No. And I wanted to mention one more thing. And I lost my train of thought. You know what? I feel like at this point we should probably keep a counter at how many times I lose my train of thought. Because it's not the first time. I feel like I do at least once an episode. Once or twice. Maybe even more. But by the end of the year, there's going to be a lot more.
Yeah.
And trust me, even throughout the day, I do it so many times. But I really think that's like all my thoughts that I've had for these chapters. I will say... I'm so sorry, baby, that you have to hear it from me. But I'm pretty sure within these last chapters, we're gonna get another smut moment.
No, yeah, and I don't like I fully imagine the next 2 chapters are solely gonna be that, because a reunion is like, oh, like even then, like
they gotta jam pack so much.
That's what I wanted to mention. Another thing is, she wanted a week with him to show he can be loved. Like, no, you just want a week to fucking smash.
Yeah.
Like, you want a week to do exactly what you did in that week at the tavern and then let him have his memories back. It's like, no, that's not how that works either, you know? And that's like, why it's like the last 2 chapters are going to be exactly that, because They haven't seen each other.
So what are they going to do?
Yep.
They're going to smash.
Exactly.
Like, I wholeheartedly know that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. And I at least hope it's not going to be all 2 chapters. Like, I have a feeling. I think
there's going to be at least one.
Based off how the last part went, I feel like between the 2 chapters, it's probably going to be 80% that. And then 20% of the plot. Like, I feel like it's been 10% in one chapter and 10% in the other to close it out of plot. And in between that is going to be like 40 and 40 of of just smut. And it's like, I'm not looking forward to the end. And I'm not looking forward to the end of the plot either. Like, it's just going to end up with them being together. And for what? She's just going to forgive him for killing her family.
I think it's like, what about the war that's still going on between the territories? Like, what's going to happen with the sisters?
Yeah, and
there's just so much.
They mentioned that Daria and Nashira were whispering at each other to have a plan against Fury. Like, when is that going to happen in these next 2 chapters when 80% of it is going to be them smashing? And it's like, I don't know. And then we still have to think about where the rest of the Wraiths are. And
I don't think, like you said, I don't think that's ever going to be brought up.
It's not. And if anything, it's going to be brushed in. Like, it's like, maybe there's going to be a part where
it's going to be like a plot hole.
It's going to be like a part where they're fighting, like the sisters are fighting, and then it's just quickly mentioned that the Wraiths appear because Fury called them in again or something like that, and it's just not going to be any explanation at all.
Now, do we think that the Ouroboros King is going to pop back up?
Appear again? No. I think we saw the last of Ouro, unfortunately. It's like, how are you going to make a super side character be the one character that we're most interested in?
I know. He's just so interesting.
Even Salazar, I'm still interested in. Like, I feel like we're not going to see much of him again. Maybe at the end when... I think this is going to end with them being together, going back to the circus and doing the circus together, right? And Salazar is going to be brought up, like saying, hey, welcome back, or something like that. Something stupid. And it's just going to mention Salazar just being there.
I'm going to say the opposite.
You don't think they're going to be part of the circus?
I don't think they're going to be part of the circus. I think they're going to go their own way. I think this is now their new chapter.
Which is going to be worse for me. Because it's like, okay, now what?
I know. I don't think they're going to go back to the circus. I don't think they feel like they belong there anymore. And so I think they're going to go do something else. I think at first Haro just stayed there to hide that she was a seer, and now she doesn't have to hide that anymore. So she's going to go off and do her own little thing with Wraith. I don't see them back at the circus, in my opinion. I don't think so.
I think that's just me being hopeful. Because if they go their own way, it's like, okay.
How about they join the Ouroboros gang?
No, that would just make the Ouroboros gang weaker.
So we can get a part 2, please.
No,
part 2.
Yeah, even if I want a part 2 about the Ouroboros gang, I don't want them involved whatsoever.
No, yeah, I agree.
Over this story.
Yeah, and I just
which is a shame because in the first episode you heard how excited I was for the first 7 chapters, and then from there it just went downhill.
Yeah, I guess we'll see today, tomorrow, or yesterday. This book. Sorry, I had to bring it back up. There's like even though Nashira pisses me off, that's just the way today, tomorrow, or yesterday. That's gonna stick. That really is gonna stick. So, yeah. Next week we're gonna go ahead and cover the remaining chapters. Again, chapters 24 through 26 plus the epilogue. And we're also just going to read over the acknowledgements just because that's something I want to go ahead and do. And then we're going to do our
final review.
We have a whole review system in place, but we'll touch on that next week. Mm-hmm. We're not going to give it away.
Yep.
But I think that's all that we have. Yep. All of our thoughts for today, tomorrow, and yesterday. I'm sorry, I'm going to be annoying with that. But we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.
For the last little bit, remember, next month we're going to go ahead and we're going to read The Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Mm-hmm. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
And that's all we got. Adios.
See you.
Bye-bye.